Hey, friends, welcome back to Notes to My Nervous System, a podcast about understanding your nervous system so you can move through hard moments with a little more calm and a lot less self blame. I'm Erin, a mom, a therapist, and creator of the Mind Circuit app. It's a simple nervous system friendly tool for moments when your body needs support before your brain can catch up. Hey, friends, welcome back to Notes to My Nervous System. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Erin, a mom, a therapist, and creator of the Mind Circuit app, a little micro reset in your pocket to tell your nervous system it's safe. Today, we're going to be talking about burnout, about that idea that if we just work hard enough, if we just climb high enough, then we're gonna finally feel success and find success. And it's just always the way that goes. So today we're sitting down with Brittany Webb, a clinical therapist, someone who's been a professor, has worked in the area of mental health tech, and we're going to pick apart burnout. So Brittany, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Erin. I'm excited to be here today.
Now, how long have you been in the field?
Ooh, I've been in the field for almost 15 years. Yeah, I kind of went right from undergrad to grad and just dove right in.
Same.
Yep.
What drew you to looking at specializing in exploring burnout? Especially 15 years ago, this wasn't even a term I think I heard of.
Yeah, I think that shift really came, I feel like I had heard about burnout so many times of like the therapist kind of workshops of like how to prevent it and everything, but you're also expected to work 40 hours a week and see all those clients and maybe throw in a snack during your day. So it was like, I feel like an idea that, but you're also supposed to have it, but then it's not set up for you to have it.
I remember it being framed as not so much like the term burnout being used today, but more as if just checking in with yourself as a clinician, so you're still showing up as your best self. It wasn't really framed
boundaries.
Yes, boundaries. It's more like framing it as if I'm not at my best, I'm impacting my client negatively, instead of, well, why aren't you at your best? How can we help you?
Yeah, it really, I think, came to light when the past kind of 2 employments I had before starting my own practice was I was working as a CEO at a residential place, and I was traveling between, I'm based out of Philadelphia. Yeah, and then I was driving 3 hours back to like my hometown in Western PA every other week to do this role. So it was like a hybrid, and I had taken a lot on with that because I didn't just do that. I oversaw the behavior support program that was in there, just a lot, and also on call because for behavioral support. And then I was like,
CEO.
It was a very small place, so if that also they expect you to wear so many hats.
Many hats, yeah.
Yep. And then I was like, okay, now I need to find something else. So I moved to like mental health tech that was completely remote. And I was like, maybe this is it. It was not it, because it was just even being in mental health focused, it was not set up to be mental wellness. So I really thought like, man, I am feeling depleted, exhausted. Imposter syndrome comes up at that time. And I was like, I think let me create my own environment. So that helped turn it, but I just saw that really come up prevalent there. I know it was happening when I was going through grad school, interning. Sorry, like you experienced that of just like you're doing so much at one time.
And they are training you from day one at grad school to burn yourself out.
Yeah. I remember at one point I had pushed off my internship to be the only thing I was focused on at the end of my program, because I was trying to do it, taking full-time classes, working full-time because I had to, and then trying to do an internship. They had calculated that I would have to work 7 days a week, and that would go on for at least 6 to 8 months. And I was like, you know what? That actually doesn't seem reasonable. So then I pushed it off to have 1 day off a week, but at least it was one.
One.
Yeah. rolling in the days off.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you created your own environment.
Mm-hmm.
What were the key components that helped you to create an environment where burnout wasn't not necessarily a thing, but something you guys could be more aware of? And then what are like the key like goalposts that you go back and kind of check in to make sure you're still on that path?
Yeah. So I guess what I really thought of is with burnout, you can't be your best self. And if I'm really providing therapy, it's not going to be great. So that's where I really set up the practice to be that. And it's actually a group practice. So I remember one of my first therapists coming on the team was working, I think seeing like 32 clients a week. And I was like, that is so much. How can we get you down lower? Like we need to reel this back. We can raise your fees so then financially it's okay, but you're gonna like I know for myself, like I'd then be dreading sessions. I would feel sick more often. Like I just then didn't feel like doing anything.
Yeah, your
So
body's telling you it's too much.
literally, right? Like
Mhm.
it gives us signs that I like to think of like whenever, it's like, I don't understand why I'm like feeling this way. It's like, maybe it's that time to like take a step back and maybe not do like cram your days just back to back. Even if you want to get done sooner, maybe that extra hour, it's not that bad to push
Yeah.
it back. And then I guess ways that I check in is one, I kind of check in with my staff routinely. I see them almost weekly at this
Okay.
point. And then for myself too, I do actually, one of the things I do is a weekly wins call with one of my colleagues who I've known for, I don't know, 8 years at this point. And her and I will go back and forth about like celebrating each other's wins. And we can
Oh,
hear it and how we're talking about kind of like what's been going on for us in a given week of like, oh, like it actually that was a big deal. It you can hear it in our verbiage of like,
love that.
oh, it wasn't like that big of a deal, but I did this thing. And it's like, no, it was a big deal. Like you did that. And so when we hear more of like that kind of talk and we have to
So
reframe it
like
for each other, you
a
know something's going on.
positive accountability partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I think we forget day to day, even week to week of like, we've accomplished a lot, and being practice owners, right? Like you forget kind of all that you're doing in
Mm,
that.
you do. And that kind of brings me to a question about your previous hat.
Hmm.
I'm assuming when you were a CEO and you're running this residential program, you didn't take time to recognize your wins and everything you did,
Hmm.
had to make a change. So what was the moment that helped you realize that the cost of everything you were doing was just too high? And how did that like impact that sense of self when you walked away from, what we in the field would consider a high level position that, a lot of people want to work towards?
Absolutely. I feel like that turning point, it happened, I think, in a couple instances. There wasn't just like one singular moment, but I was trying to go out to dinner with friends and I had put in an on-call system in place. And if that person didn't answer right in time, they would still contact me. And I was like, I put things in place. Like you can call that person again. Like it's okay. But it was just kept falling back to me. And I knew that it couldn't happen that way anymore. Like I physically couldn't do that. One of the main reasons I did take that job was my grandmother was aging. So I wanted to spend more time with her because she was back in Western PA. And I realized I wasn't spending time with her because I was out running this job and
So
constantly,
the whole reason for the job you couldn't even do.
no.
Mm,
Mhm. And it just felt like it was taking that time away where even if I was just like, even sitting in her living room with her, like in the evening, I was still getting just constant emails, phone calls. It was very chaotic. And so it was, right? Like, as you were saying, it's something we think of like, you're at the top of this ladder. You're
oh,
like,
you're
you're
the CEO.
there.
You made it.
And it was hard because I had stepped then into a role that I was trying to remember my title, but essentially like a coordinator, like back into like middle management. And it did feel like a blow for quite some time. I also realized that's what I needed, and I didn't need to spend all of my free time working. I
Kind of
actually used,
needed that knockdown to make yourself question, what do you really want?
hmm yeah, because I wasn't eating well, wasn't sleeping well, because like I get phone calls in the middle of the night. And yeah, so I used to, for many years, I had this plaque that said, good things come to those who hustle. And I threw that away after that CEO job.
Good.
Because I was like, that is not true. You
Mhm.
can't keep doing that. Like, it's not that, you know, I'm being now lazy. I just can't keep going because you run out of gas, you run out of steam then.
Yes, but there's more to life.
Hmm. Absolutely. Because I also like to think of, and I do this for clients a lot, if they're like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm like, I keep working and I'm doing this, like if you want to think of like your pay, that actually goes down because now your like hourly time is less because you're spending more time doing that job.
I like that. That's a good way to reframe it and have a person have to kind of pause and think about that. Like, you work an extra 10 hours this week and you don't get that extra pay. How much does that
Mhm.
really lower your hourly rate?
Hmm. Yeah.
Ooh,
Especially
I'm
if
going to
it's hard to
steal
think
that.
of like, yeah, please do. Because, right, it's hard to connect of like, well, I'm just sitting around in my house. And it's like,
Yes, I
still.
do the same thing. I'm like, I'm sitting here watching TV. I might as well work.
Hmm. Yeah. Why don't I just pull my laptop out and just like check a couple of things or create that next
Passion.
like post or something? And it's like, you don't need to do that.
But you are, I mean, I assume you're a CEO still because you're running your own group practice, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, how did you learn to do differently this time?
Well, I work essentially, I guess, like half days to see direct clients. So almost like how do I have it set up? Like Monday, Wednesdays, I work almost like 2 to 6 or two to
Mhm.
seven some days. And then Tuesday, Thursdays, Fridays, I'm actually done by 12 at the latest. And then I mean, I know I have admin that I'll do, of course, but I
Those
get to
clinical
choose,
notes.
of course. I get to choose what I want to do with that time then. I can go take my dog for a hike if I want to and come back, finish a
Mhm.
note or do this other thing. But I can step away then and I will put on my calendar break times, what I'm doing as reminders for myself to be like, you need to step away and go do this.
I like that. I find if I pencil things in because I'm old school, I still got to write things because
Mhm.
otherwise I just snooze it on my phone.
It's fair.
But if I like look ahead and go, I really need to just take a day to go to walk with a friend. And if I write it in, I am way more likely to do it.
I'd also plan my admin kind of time
Mhm.
around my personal schedule then.
How so?
So I'll have maybe like coffee with a friend like once a week or a dinner planned. And so I will then, at the start of each week, look at what I have going on personally and then plug in that time versus having my personal time work around my work.
So you do the personal first and then figure out,
Hmm.
I like that.
Yep. Aside from like those client hours, like those are routine, but everything
Mhm.
else, it lets me to get like I get to decide what I want to do or when I want to go to the gym and things like that.
Do you find though that being able to make those decisions, you get any kickback from yourself? Is that imposter syndrome like pop
Oh,
up?
hmm, yeah, it still pops up. I feel my brain's going in two spots right now. So and
Take us,
I
we
take
can.
you on the journey. I'd have to say that when I first started my practice, it was just me, and it felt like I was breaking rules of being like done middle of the day and I'm like
Mm.
I'm out and about. It's kind of like when you go out to like the grocery store and you're like, why are people out here at 2 o'clock on Tuesday? And it's like, but I'm also out here at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. So it felt odd for some time and I
Feels
really
almost
struggled
like
how to,
you're ditching class or something.
right? And like, I also think of like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I thought I was supposed to be working, but I also should not be working right
Mm.
now. And then where my brain was going also was that I do feel a little imposter syndrome is actually good. I think that it shows that you care.
That you're checking in with yourself, that you're having those ethical questions.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I kind of just a little bit, not over consuming because that gets to be too much, but just a little bit here and there, I feel like is a good kind of check to see where things are.
How do you know where the line is?
That's a good question. I know for me, and I'm sure maybe everyone has a little bit different of a gauge. For me, it's really when I feel like that kind of like task paralysis. And I'm just like, what do I do? Like this feels so overwhelming. And I just get in my own head that I need to be doing something more productive, but I am so exhausted at this point. That's when I know that it's kind of coming to a head. And I'm like, okay, what I need to do is just, why don't I pause? I don't need to take an action right now in either direction and just let me listen to like my favorite song or let me go out and go for a walk of changing my environment for a little bit and then coming back to see what I actually want to do.
No, that is an excellent point. It is hard when you're in that. It's like a freeze response for me to give yourself the choice of not choosing anything on that list.
Yep. Because that list
And
keeps
you
getting
don't,
longer, right?
yeah, and you don't have to do something on the list. Like you're the adult, you get to decide.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Yeah,
forget
not
that.
not everything is like red alert. We have to take care right this second.
Learning how to prioritize has certainly been very valuable in my life. But with the imposter syndrome and burnout, what would you suggest to someone, especially when you're new in the field, you're a small business, whoever you are, and you're trying to find that balance between, yes, I know I'm supposed to do self-care, and yes, the imposter syndrome's coming out because I'm stretching my muscles and doing something different. But also, I have to make money and run a company.
Yeah, I think of a couple of things. So I think of one, when you're starting out, it is kind of like an experiment. I didn't settle into my kind of client schedule for probably the first 4 months because I didn't know, again, I was thinking I need to be working all the time. And what helped me too is having, again, my colleague who I do the wins call with, of
It is
bouncing, like
so
having that as a
awesome.
sounding board. Because then it's kind of like checks yourself of like, I feel like I keep setting the goalpost higher and higher. And they can be like, what are you talking about? You're already doing so much. Like, you can pause or let's go to coffee and we can, break up our environments and stuff. So I feel like having that support and acknowledging that also it is an experiment, kind of going into it. I also think I used to, I mean, I still do it to an extent now in my calendar is I will schedule again those downtimes and have a break. Like I have to say that in having a dog that is like, oh, I literally have to go take her out. Like
It's that
she,
positive pressure to not blow yourself off.
yep. And she knows whenever I'm no longer in a session, I can be sitting at my desk doing work and she'll come underneath and just be like, excuse me,
She
I know that
notices the
you're.
difference.
Mhm.
Smart dog.
Yeah, and very energetic. So that also, I'm like, oh, I gotta get moving. So, but I think too of like just having those pauses and having like an end time to work,
That's
right? Like,
hard sometimes, especially when you're your own boss.
I try to set it up that like after dinner, I don't log back in. Do I do that sometimes? Of course. But I try to make it that no, there is a deadline. You close it. I leave it up in my office space. I don't take my laptop around in my house.
That's smart, leaving the device somewhere. So it's like, I
Then you
only,
don't have that reminder, right? Of just like, it's just sitting right there at my coffee table. I could pick it up while I'm watching TV.
yes, which I do quite often. I also don't have a home office right now because I just went through the hurricane a year ago, and my home office right now is being used as our garage because we don't have garage. So there is that. But I could leave it elsewhere.
Right. And like
Not.
that I'm sure is now a new routine, a new schedule to just even in your environment to get used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been interesting. There's this conversation, I don't know if you've heard it a little bit within the industry and businesses and mental health, of workers feeling like burnout is just a nice way to say that we're going to overuse you, that we're going
Mm.
to take advantage of you. And we're going to make you feel responsible for being burnt out because it's your fault that you didn't do self-care. Have you heard that? And what's your view?
I have not heard that, but I can see how that happens.
That little twist of, well, you're not doing your self-care, are you?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Oh, all the time of just, why didn't you take your lunch today? What do you mean? You
Oh,
asked me to work through it. You gave me 5 tasks to prioritize and said they all need to be done. So I had to. Well, I've heard that so many times from especially friends who are not in like mental health or don't have control of kind of their schedule. If they're working in an office or like my husband works in a lab setting, like I
mm,
hear that constantly of just like more demands or this thing now got prioritized, but this other priority still is number one. Also, they're both number ones and they have to be done. And I feel like that's just the then supervisor or that boss not taking accountability for helping out their employees.
so you think it's more of a leadership, like pushback, a conversation that needs to be had?
I feel like it kind of boils down to of if you like they're the ones driving this ship. Like I also think about this and with my employees of just I'm in charge of driving this ship. And if I'm asking things of them, I also need to be like ask them to take time for themselves. One of the and I do like a 3-part interview process. And in my first interview with any candidate, I do ask how do you mitigate burnout?
Mm.
Because if they say like, oh, I don't get it. No, everyone's experienced it. You have to know your warning signs and be able to navigate that, especially with having more flexibility versus, yeah, in some industries you don't get that.
True. Do you get a lot of people who tell you they've never had to deal with burnout?
I'd have to say in the interviewing I've done, about 50%.
Really?
Yeah, it's very surprising to me that I will get like, nope, I don't get it. Or like, I just take care of it. I'm like, well, tell me more. How do you take care of it? Because get my practice is completely virtual. So it's not that someone can pop in next door to be like, Brittany, I'm not feeling so great today. They have to really reach out to then let me know.
What are the good answers that you look for?
Ooh, if they are able to identify like activities that
Mm,
they do to take care of themselves and at least like one warning sign of like, I know when my sleep is being disrupted, that's a sign of burnout for me. If I'm not eating well, if I'm saying yes to everything, it's great.
mm.
I want or checking like emails late at night. Great. I want you to know the warning sign and what you already have set up for yourself to take care of it, or at least try to mitigate it, right?
Now, do you like follow up with your employees to hold them accountable for helping themselves and being on top of the burnout? Or how do you like help navigate that for employees?
At every individual supervision, I will ask them, how are things going? Like, how are things going in the work that you're doing, your
Mhm,
clients? How are things kind of in general, kind of outside? Because, right, it's hard that personal things do come in
mhm.
kind of anywhere. Therapists are not the exception. And getting a gauge to see how things are and if there is anything I could do to help. Like if someone is, seeing 15 clients a week and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to send any referrals to you right now. Why don't you take a couple weeks, see how that feels, and we can always start that back up. That's an easy kind of change. Or can I help you plan a day off in that?
Now, does that come up or are your employees still like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine?
It has come up from time to time, especially if they're like, I just feel like I'm doing too many back-to-back sessions. How can we schedule a break in there for you? Like that has to become your non-negotiable and you cannot move that then. It has to stay there.
So
So,
you
well,
really listen to your employees.
because I find that, it has been for myself, I've seen this, I've seen for colleagues that then you come into the day and you're like, I don't feel well, I need to cancel. And the last thing I want is clients being canceled last minute because that doesn't feel good for them. So let's get ahead of this too, so it doesn't happen that way. And then you're providing quality services, and then you also feel good about that instead of just feeling depleted all the time and like, "Ugh, that session, it was really crappy. I don't feel like I did great." And then I feel like just
Mhm.
keeps spiraling from there.
Are you worried though, with all the talk with the change within the medical field, reimbursement rates going down, changing how you can afford to get a degree in counseling or social work? Or are you worried that it's going to make burnout more difficult for your company to manage or yourself?
That's a good question. So reimbursement wise, I guess I have that kind of off the table because we are all private pay. So
Oh, then you don't
mhm,
have to worry about that.
that is one nice thing. Now, right on the flip side, I know with how things are going and the affordability of therapy,
Yeah, I've
that
had
I do
several clients tell me that they don't know if they're going to be able to afford to even have health care at the beginning of the
mhm.
year.
Yeah, it's a really scary time. I think, I try not to get too far ahead because things have been changing so much, right? It's
That's
almost
very
like
valid.
whiplash,
Hmm.
whiplash constant every day almost. And I try to just kind of stay informed and seeing, what can I do for these clients right now? Like a way that we try to shift things is we do a lot of group therapy, which is then a lower cost. So that is, I feel like, an avenue that we have opened up to make it more kind of affordable in that way. But yeah, I guess, in seeing all the pushback with, our field being labeled as not a professional kind of field, I think that's in a way seeing everyone kind of like rile up and push
Hmm.
back. That's a very positive thing.
That is nice to see that
Hmm.
there is a pushback, even from people not in the field.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's, I guess, hard to say what's going to kind of come this way. I really just try to stay informed with my state or the other states we're licensed in and how they're handling those times.
When, for my listeners who may not know, the Department of Education said that counseling, social work, I believe nurses even, were not professional degrees anymore.
Yep, that is correct. And I think there's
I
several
don't
others in
even know
there,
what
but
that means. I think speech paths in there, OT, there's a huge list.
yeah.
I don't,
Yeah, it's
it
just creating more barriers, really.
is. It's making mental health already struggles with getting recognized for it to be just basic health care. But now you're not even saying it's a professional.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just kicking us when we're down.
Mm-hmm.
With
Yeah.
COVID, I just was so hoping that there would be this wave of people really embracing mental health.
And that's where I feel like that whiplash kind of comes in, right? Like there is a great rise in that accessibility piece with kind of like COVID and the shift to telehealth or
Hmm.
teletherapy, even that I feel like was so positive in that way of like, oh, like, right, you don't, right, and being in Philly, like, don't have to drive and find parking or worry about traffic and all finding the office even and all that. Like this allows someone of like, I saw someone earlier today on their lunch break because they're like, oh, I have this time. I ate, took care of myself, and I want my therapy session to be at this time
Which
instead
is
because
wonderful.
I've got a family and I don't want to have them home while I'm trying to do
Right.
therapy.
The extra time it takes just for the traveling sometimes can be an hour, let alone the hour for therapy.
Hmm. Absolutely. And then not even thinking about, that's just me living in a city. What about rural areas? I'm thinking about where I grew up, like right around like kind of Penn State, State College area. It could take like 30 minutes one way to get to a grocery store, like
Mhm.
let alone any other kind of like civilization. And the process,
Mhm.
like it's a long time.
It is. I am worried that they're going to take that back. And I don't know why, but it's like people forgot that virtual therapy wasn't a guarantee.
Yeah.
That
And
before COVID, some insurance companies could just say no.
mhm, they could. I know. And there's been studies done to show that it's still an effective delivery of service. Mm-hmm.
There's no
Yeah.
reason to say no.
No,
Just
not,
don't want to pay.
yeah, making it more challenging, again, creating like another barrier to care, because it's so hard, especially with that, I don't know if you had heard the new like Medicare requirement. I'm trying to remember. I'm probably going to get the time frame wrong, but I believe
Well,
the
it'll
first of
probably change 20 times.
that's true. Yeah. I believe the first appointment for a Medicare client has to be in person. And then I want to say it might be like every year you have to do one, or it might even be sooner, more frequent than that, which I think of those on Medicare are often like,
Struggling.
yeah, to
They're
then
struggling or
be,
retired, so they just don't have that
so then to
income.
drive to an
Yeah.
office, that is a huge requirement. Like that is, so I think of that just being like, there's like another barrier putting up for those who really need it. And now it's making it harder to then get to.
No, I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah,
Sometimes I just keep my head in the sand because I'm like, it's just, I'm a therapist and this is too much for me.
I want to help everyone. I want to do it all. Everyone's got to make such a big change. And then I was like, that's really unrealistic. I can't do. I'm one person. I can't
Mm-hmm.
do that all myself. But yeah, it's a lot that again, things are kind of constantly changing that I like to remain hopeful, but it's still, scary at the same time.
No, but I think that's a good point. You can be worried and scared, but still resolve to have some hope. You don't have to.
Mhm. I think it helps to not then constantly live in fear and like the what ifs, like,
Mhm.
what's going to happen, because some of it, right, has been changing so much. So it's hard to really predict what's the next thing. What is it going to be? So,
No, I think that's good. Before we wrap up, I always ask people if you could talk to your younger self, what advice or suggestion or just a statement or a direction you would give that younger self about anything. It doesn't have to be mental health,
hmm,
even though I'm always about mental health.
I I think about if I could talk to my younger self, I it almost like two things kind of come up. One is your friends are there as supports. It's not just you always being there as a support for them.
Okay.
Because friends they've always been important to me, especially like moving to another city. And I think it's just me removing my therapist hat of like, no, like I can receive support too. Like I'm a person. There being a therapist is just my job. That is it.
Uh-huh.
It's my job and then the end. And then the other thing that I would say to my younger self is that I don't have to do it all. As in just like I feel like going over my past job titles, I tried to do it all.
Like it.
And even during those times, I was also teaching at universities. Like I looking back, I don't know how I managed to do that. And it's okay to just like pause and just enjoy this time, because that is the most valuable thing we have is time, because we can't get that back once it's gone.
I like that. That's a good place to leave it. The value of time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they find you?
Absolutely. I think the best kind of landing spot is probably my website, because it has like our contact information, our Instagram and everything. But the practice is Better Minds Counseling and Services. So it's really, Better Minds, Better Minds Counseling Services.com.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So I was really drawn in the field early to brain injury and how like also behaviors and how the mind works. And that's where like Better Minds really like kind of made sense to me.
No, I like that. It also speaks about that idea of putting things in place to prevent burnout,
Hmm.
so that
Absolutely.
your mind is at a better spot.
Yep. 100%. Well, thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you. This has been lovely.
Absolutely. Right. Like it's kind of like where the wind is taking you at that moment and like, ooh, that
Yes.
sounds really interesting.
I like the just being able to ask the questions that interest me because I
Mhm.
don't know about you, but as a therapist, generally, whether I'm interested or not, doesn't really matter, right? So this time around, I get to just ask based on my own curiosity, which is very refreshing, and hopefully my listeners like.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. I've really, really enjoyed this time.
Thank you again for joining Notes to My Nervous System. If this spoke to you, please leave a review and subscribe. It's the only way people find small, independent podcasts like these. But before you go, let's take one small second. Deep breath in. Let's just notice our body, your feet on the floor, your breath, the chair holding you. Nothing to fix, just letting your nervous system know it made it through another moment. If this episode helped you feel even a little more steady, that matters. That's what this show is here for. And if you want more of those gentle science-based resets between episodes, you can find my app, Mind Circuit Ease, in the App Store or Google Play. It's a quiet place to help your brain come back online when life feels too loud. Thank you again for being here. Your nervous system deserves care and not